You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to the program. Joining me now, Rex Nelson, senior editor with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to see you, my friend.
Roby, always good to be with you. Thank you.
Yes, but we got a big one to talk about today. Former Congressman, Pulaski County Sheriff Tommy Robinson, just one of the most iconic Arkansas political figures, passes away at the age of 82. You were close to the family. Just first of all, just kind of put his life in perspective. What do you say about Tommy Robinson?
You know, that term larger than life is overused, but for those of us who were around in the 80s, Tommy really was larger than life. I think it is fair to say. I was talking yesterday to our managing editor, Allison Hogue, who was also around in those years, when he was sheriff, that he received more media coverage as a county sheriff than either Governor White or Governor Clinton received during that 4-year period.
Yeah.
I mean, he was covered more than the governor. Now, the newspaper war, we have to remember, we have to put all this in context, was just heating up at the time, and neither the Gazette nor the Democrat could get enough of Tommy Robinson. He sold newspapers.
Yeah, he made headlines for sure.
Absolutely.
So some of the things that he did that would be notorious, maybe, popular, maybe, I don't know how you want to put it in there, but I mean, putting sheriffs in the back of convenience stores with shotguns to
what he
to
liked
quell
to call
crime.
the blow 'em away program, and you will remember that he had a news conference where he's got this sawed-off double-barrel shotgun. That photo hit the Associated Press wire and ran all over the country, including the National Enquirer, that it was a full-page photo in there. So, you know, long before you had heard of Sheriff Joe out of Maricopa County, Arizona, you know, who in recent years has made a lot of news. I mean, Tommy Robinson was making national news as a county sheriff.
Where did that drive come from for him, though? I mean, was he just a person that loved the camera and was going to find a way to do something sensational, or did he have some sort of core belief that was like, this is how you make something change?
I do think he had core belief on we have to take drastic measures to cut crime. Crime was rising at the time that he became sheriff, and I think he did have core beliefs. At the same time, I was going to say it's not either or, it's both and. He did like the cameras, he did like the media attention and thrived on it. And going back to the newspaper war, you know, he and John Robert Starr, who had a 7-day-a-week column in the Arkansas Democrat, had this love-hate relationship. But in a column I wrote for Sunday, I compared it to kind of like Howard Cosell and Muhammad Ali. They tended to fight each other, but it was situational, that they were making both famous at the same time.
Right.
And those of us who, again, were around at that time realized how influential Starr was. I mean, I'm not sure the three best names in Arkansas during the early 1980s weren't Tommy Robinson, John Robert Starr, and Say McIntosh. I mean, what a trio that was, news-wise.
All right, so Tommy Robinson's able to parlay this high-profile Pulaski County Sheriff position into a run for Congress. He's successful. He defeats Judy Petty, and maybe it was Jim Taylor, the independent.
Jim Taylor was the independent in the race,
so,
absolutely. With less than 50% of the vote, by the way.
Yeah.
Now, I worked for Petty, but she was a very good candidate.
Yeah. Very
studious. People forget how close that was. In fact, those of us in the Petty camp always felt that the business leaders, AP and Elwood behind Robinson, you know, a lot of key people supporting Robinson, had put Taylor in the race so liberal Little Rock residents would have somebody to vote for. They couldn't stomach Tommy, and they weren't going to vote for a Republican. But had it been a two-person race, they might have voted for a Republican to try to kill off Tommy, and Petty could have won that race. So let's not forget that was a very close race.
So he switches from Democrat to Republican
in 1989.
In his third term.
He's reelected as a Democrat in 86, reelected in 88, and then the summer of 89, party switches weren't as common.
It was
then.
not, exactly.
So the president himself announced it at a nationally televised press conference.
Yeah,
because in those days, you know, when the president came out the briefing room, all the networks broke in. CBS, NBC, ABC, they all broke in, the major networks, for George H.W. Bush to say, Congressman Tommy Robinson's becoming a Republican.
that didn't.
I was there at the
that
White
did,
House
That didn't
that day,
feed his ego at all on that one.
Exactly.
So,
to be
I
on
can
every
only
major
imagine.
network in America.
So then he comes in, and then in 1990 he runs for governor against Sheffield Nelson. That is an epic race as well, just with all kinds of political shenanigans in it too.
Arcoma gas controversy. I mean, there's a
well,
whole
the
book in
whole
there somewhere.
movement to try to get Democrats to go vote in the Republican primary, which we hear that stuff a lot. You know, this voting in different primaries. It rarely ever happens, but there's actually tangible proof in this one when you look at the vote counts.
Yeah. The margin between Nelson and Robinson was greater for Sheffield Nelson in Pulaski County than the other 74 counties combined. So if you take Pulaski County out of the mix, Robinson had a lead in the primary. So Pulaski County was decisive in that election, and those crossover votes were what drove Pulaski County.
You worked that race for Robinson?
Right, I worked against Robinson
you worked
in 84 and worked for him in 1990.
What was kind of going on in that campaign?
Now, I was consistent. I've worked for Republicans both times. So.
I understand. But what was, when that result came in, what was the reaction from Robinson, the Robinson camp? What did you guys think at that time? Was there any potential challenge to it? Were you just disturbed at what happened?
Our polling showed probably underestimated the crossover, but it showed down the stretch it was having an effect, that more and more people were saying they were going to vote Republican to try to take out Tommy Robinson. So I will tell you, we were not totally shocked by election night. The polling had shown that Robinson was dropping off and that we had problems going into that primary night in May.
What do you? I know you got some good Tommy Robinson stories. So
you tell them on TV.
Well, you can tell one, and we'll bleep out whatever you got to bleep out. But what's one of your favorites there?
Well, you know, this, Roby, people will find very strange, because Tommy was one of those people that loved the camera, obviously, loved the media, but inherently he was kind of shy. People say Tommy Robinson's shy, but I'm talking about going across and shaking hands. We would be in restaurants in rural Arkansas, and people would be looking at him. You could see him point. I mean, he's a folk hero in rural Arkansas.
Yeah.
And they would be pointing, saying, "There's Tommy Robinson," and we'd say, "Tommy, go shake those people's hands." And he'd say, "You want to shake their hands? You go shake their hands." I'd say, "I'm not the one running for governor." So he wasn't a good campaigner in that respect. He was a good campaigner at getting media, but not in working people one-on-one. I'm among those, along with Skip Rutherford, though, who still believes, had he gotten out of that primary, that he would have beaten Bill Clinton in the fall, because his voters, rural voters, didn't vote in Republican primary back in those days. They would have voted for him in the fall against Bill Clinton.
Is it safe to say that he had some elements of what Donald Trump has brought to the political establishment?
He was
in
Trump
terms of
before anybody had ever heard of Trump.
Kind of the middle finger to the establishment.
Totally unfiltered, and saying on TV what those people in rural Arkansas sitting in front of the TV have been thinking and wish somebody would say.
Right. All right, we got about a minute and a half left. I don't want to neglect the fact that we're seeing something happen on the national stage that we've not seen maybe since LBJ days, and that's before my time.
Yeah.
Joe Biden losing support in the Democratic Party to run for re-election. I don't know where this is going to land, but I feel like that there is, we're close to seeing some sort of pivot.
Yeah, I don't think you can stop a narrative like that once it gets started. I mean,
it's been going on for almost 2 weeks.
No, it's a hard thing to break. I mean, let's go way back. We're old timers, Roby. You know, Gerald Ford was an All-American football player, but Americans thought he was clumsy because of what Chevy Chase did on Saturday Night Live every Saturday night. That became the narrative. Now, the narrative, whether he is or not, is that Biden is becoming senile. And I don't see anything to change that. The party is in meltdown right now, and they have no chance in the fall without another nominee on the ticket.
You think that's going to happen?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
So
I've been wrong before,
conventions
but
could be
I
pretty.
think we'll see Biden get out of the race.
Convention
in
could
the
be pretty
next week.
interesting then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very, very interesting. All right. He's Rex Nelson. He is the senior editor at the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. We always appreciate the political
Roby.
history that you bring to us. Thank you so much for being here.